Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes you've got to boldly go where no man has gone before, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can give us a listen, basically at all providers. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. We're pretty much everywhere. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to follow us on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, and we're on the Instagram at where else but In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a good one. We got a real interesting one because we're talking, something that is near and dear to this big fat nerd's heart. It is Star Trek. Any kind of Star Trek you want. We love it all. But in case you didn't know, all the original 6 films have been remastered and re-released on 4K disc for fans to enjoy it. And also we've gotten a complete package of the Star Trek The Motion Picture, the Director's Edition, with all 3 cuts of the film, special behind-the-scenes bonuses and extras and all sorts of fun stuff. But we had the unique pleasure of sitting down and talking with producer David C Fein about the release of this new 4K disc, his history with the film, because he was a producer with Robert Wise back in the film back in the day, and so very much more. But, like we always say, if you're a Star Trek fan, go seek out these titles because they are fantastic ones and a must for any Trekkie or Trekker or however you want to call its collection. But first, enjoy our talk with David because between you and me, it's a pretty good one.
All right. Well, David, obviously, this is a fantastic day. And I mean, just thank you so much for the time. And let's talk a little bit about Star Trek The Motion Picture, which obviously you know quite a bit about.
Yeah, I've been with it for so much of my life. I'm very excited about today and to talk to you, Dave. It's great. Such a great day.
Well, I mean, I guess that dovetails into my first question because, I mean, obviously, when this film came out, it was definitely around a time when science fiction was changing. I mean, for you, like, was this sort of an early job? Like, how early in your career was sort of this job to sort of get to work on this picture?
Well, like anybody who loves science fiction and loves movies, it's starting out as a fan loving the picture. I was a kid.
Right.
I was, when this film came out, and I have an insatiable curiosity, so I studied everything I could find about the filmmaking process, and of course, this movie because it was Star Trek. And after many years of working on various productions, I started working with Robert Wise, and it came to the point where I knew that there were some difficulties with this project. And Mike Medicino and I approached Bob and said, hey, thanks to Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters special edition and Lucas doing his special edition of his movies, here's an opportunity to not do an alternate version, but to finish his film. And it took a very long time before Bob would feel comfortable to do it because here's this professional who never lets a film be anything less than it could possibly be. And all of his rules had to be thrown out of the window in order to get this film finished originally. And what was assembled was just what could be put together, not what good film could be put together. And there was always a heart and soul in the film that was lost. And finally, after years of talking to him, he enabled us to approach the studio with him, and I was thrilled to collaborate with him in bringing my knowledge of filmmaking and Star Trek into the fold with him because he absolutely is a brilliant master of filmmaking. But originally, his knowledge of Star Trek wasn't as strong, so I feel that there was more added to it with that interaction. But it was wonderful to finally be able to do it about all those years ago, which was always intended for film. But that's kind of how we got started with Star Trek itself, was reapproaching Bob and then talking to him about getting the film finished. It was just basically reopening post-production, which had never happened with a film before.
No, and this is like this, I would imagine, would be sort of in the build up to the DVD release. Am I right? Sort of
Right,
back in the day.
originally. Right. Now understand it was always intended to be film. It was always intended to finish the film and finish the movie on film, just reopen post. But that's not what people were doing at the time. At the time, it was home video was such a big success. So the idea was let's do a home entertainment release because that's where films were getting their re-release. Revivals weren't as popular. So that, with the wonderful support of the studio, we were able to go in standard definition and finish the cut the best that we could under those circumstances. And then we assumed someday we'd come back and finish it on film, and here we are. And there's different things you do, and that's why the results are so much better. And look where we are technologically. It's beautiful.
I mean, this really does feel like a rarity to sort of be able to follow this film from the beginning to now in this like sort of penultimate edition. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, were the assets at hand, or did you have to dig, or what? Like, walk me through just in terms of, you know, knowing where to do the right effects and knowing where to sort of bump things up or knowing where to leave things. But it always feels like a complicated thing because you never want any of the visual effects to feel like they're sort of being pasted on after the fact. You want them to feel natural.
Mm-hmm. Well, originally, our goal was to, because we knew we weren't able, back when we did the original version, able to recomposite from original elements of the film, we made sure that everything matched in quality. So we made sure that everything looked like it could have been produced in 1979. This time around, we had about 2.5 years of working with the archive, who located every element that was still in existence. And we're able to bring those in, everything at original negative form. So for now, we really were reopening post, even in regard to the visual effects work. And when they did the original visual effects work, it was so rushed because of the difficulties that were happening during production that they became really soft in all the generations. So the generational loss was also improved upon because now the incredible Paramount archive, which had such logs and so many boxes of beautiful elements that we transferred, in recompositing them, enabled us to raise the quality of the effects. And because everything was from the negative now, which is so unusual based upon the standard definition time, everything was able to truly reach the highest possible quality in doing the project. If it wasn't for the grand archivists at Paramount and everything that they located, especially the original ADR master tapes, we didn't have them 20 years ago. But the sound was also so rushed over the years that meaning over the original production, the mad rush, that it was muffled, and even audio that was recorded for the film never made it into the film in regard to dialogue. It was a treasure trove to get Bob's original directing of the actors in doing the lines specifically for each scene and being able to reintroduce them and clean it up so much. But the greatest asset was going back to the negative and having so many elements still stored and archived by the studio and available to transfer, which we did in 4K for 35 millimeter elements. VistaVision we did in 6K, and there were Doug Trumbull 65 millimeter elements that were transferred in 8K, and then bringing them together for the 4K master.
Wow.
Did that answer the question?
It's
a hell of a lot of work.
It did. I can imagine. I mean, my God.
I got to tell you, it was pure joy just to have so much material. There are shots in the film where we saw the original camera, the footage as it was shot with the camera. I fell off my chair. I never realized it had been so soft in the compositing. It was magic. It's absolutely magic, and I couldn't have been happier.
Is this as close as we're getting to Bob's vision? Because I mean, even when the layman sort of looks at the runtime between the three different cuts, they go, oh, it's only 13, 14 minutes. What's the big difference? Or is it really just the fine tuning and the tweaking of not just the elements, but making sure the right things are in the right place and making sure it has the flow that it was originally intended to have?
It's more. It's more than Bob's original vision, because we spoke about so much that we wanted to do and so much we wanted to achieve. And one of the things that Bob pounded into my head is, don't ever treat a film as a limitation. Use whatever's available to tell the best story. And since that time that we were originally doing this, HDR became about, and it was discovered that there's more information on film. As a matter of fact, here's something wonderful. There's more information visually on a negative. And for example, where the audio striping is on a piece of film, when you're working from the original camera negative, and at least one place in the film where that dramatically improved the film, because there was a character watching during a conversation on the left side, and just moving it over, which you can now do digitally, really enhanced the power of that moment where it was kind of dry before. So these are things that I both learned from Bob, but also instinctually know tells a better story. And using that and the brilliance of Dolby Atmos now, where it's encompassing in the sound, and not looking at this as a 79 film, this is a movie using everything to tell the best story. So it's a 2022 movie, and I can't imagine Bob would have been just thrilled with where we were now, and so much, and we had so much more ability to manipulate and answer some questions that even Bob in our conversations, we couldn't find certain answers to difficulties that we were now able to develop and put them in there. I love teasing that there are now 2 moments in the film that always on the surface were just what you see in the movie. But now if you're paying attention, they're almost dream sequences, because you're not really, what you're seeing isn't really what's happening there. And it subliminally is answering questions that we had a hard time answering before. It's wonderful, and it's working. And I just can't say, I just wish I was here to show him the whole thing. He would be so thrilled.
I absolutely, man. I'm sure he would be. And I mean, it's one of those things where even when I look at sort of your career and I see sort of the things that you've done, and you've always been a champion of not just media and getting stuff at home and in the best possible quality and that sort of thing, but really sort of giving audiences a look behind the lens almost, and behind the scenes, and doing things like that. I never thought there would be a line between Star Trek the Motion Picture and Chopping Mall, but there is. I mean, for you, is it about just finding a way to sort of enhance the original material?
No, not at all.
Okay.
For me, it's always about how to give the audience the greatest experience they can get. It's about telling stories that just grab you and bring you in. Whether or not you're even doing a documentary, you can't just have something lay there. You have someone there who wants to know something. You've got to entertain them. You have to keep them involved. And that's the great joy that I focus on. I say with every project, there has to be, I used to call it the coolness factor. You know, Bob, like in every one of Robert Wise's films, there's always been a moment that I just go, wow, just something that hits me that's so powerfully that I wasn't expecting. Like in I Want to Live, there's just a shot. There's a execution scene, but there's a shot of gas masks on the ground.
Right.
Didn't do anything, but that little hint was just a moment of brilliance, and it got you involved. And that's what it is for me too. I want audiences to just fall in and just disappear into the story. Even if it's a documentary, you have to be entertaining. You have to make sure that people have fun with it.
Well, you know what? The work you've done on this, it is the Lord's work, and in the cinema God's way. Because I swear to God, this is a gorgeous set, and it looked like it was made yesterday, and it's such a beautiful piece of work. And you should be proud. Bob should be proud. This is such a fantastic set that people can have available at home now. I mean, I'm so happy for you, and again, thank you for the time today.
Thank you. I'm just so thrilled with it, and I can't wait for everybody to sit down and watch the movie. It just means so much to me.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.